and gentlemen, good evening. It's 6:30, October 13th, 2014. I'm calling the Grantville City Council into session. Mr. Mowry, would you please do the invocation?
I'd like to ask everybody to stand, so we'll stand. Our gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this blessed day you've given us, Father. We thank you for this opportunity to meet out as mayor, council, and citizens. Father, we praise you. God, this meeting tonight, we look at your guidance in our decisions. Father, we pray we come together in unity. We pray that we can work out our differences. And Father, we ask your blessings upon this meeting. We pray that God, that the mayor, the council, our city attorney, we praise you, bless each one that came this way tonight. Bless their homes. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Please remain standing for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. There you go. We heard your truck was gone, so we went ahead and started. Thank you, Mr. Cook. All right, approval of the agenda. Comments or concerns about the agenda?
Yes, I have a comment. I have to make an amendment to the.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion that we add discussion for adding the department head as an interim city manager. I'd also like to have a discussion added for, what was it, man? What else do you have on that committee? Overtime. Oh, discussion.
Overtime.
Discussion about the overtime pay. In addition to that.
You don't have that under both of them under old business?
No, that would,
Yes.
the department head, interim city manager would be new business. And then the other one was overtime?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, I'd like to do the department head interview, city manager separate. Do I have a motion to add department head?
Mayor, before you finish,
Go ahead.
To move under new business discussion on reducing sewer rates and reducing tap fees. I'd like to send that back to committee for discussion. I think we need to go to a committee before we discuss it in a full council.
We'll take that request separately too. And if you would, under public speakers, Mr. Stasio has asked to be removed. Anything further, gentlemen? Okay, department head interview for city manager. I have a motion from Mr. Cooks to add that to the agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion. Mr. Cooks?
I have no discussion.
All right, well, is your motion to execute this or to discuss it?
If there's a motion to execute it, that's up to the council.
Well, was that your motion?
The motion is to have a discussion.
Okay.
And
Okay,
if the motion, the discussion comes to execution, that's up to the council.
Okay, at this point, we have a motion to discuss department head interview for city manager. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, unanimous. The other is discussion of reducing sewer taps and reducing, that says tap fees, but that would be water meter fees. I have a motion by Mr. Lundy to move that to take it off the agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Discussion, Mr. Lundy?
Well, Mayor, this is something that, from you, that I feel like should go back to committee. I don't think we should discuss this in an open forum now. I think we should discuss it in a committee and then bring it back to a council, before a council make a decision on it. We don't really have enough time now to discuss these two issues, and I think they should go back to the committee and then come back to council with an opinion.
Further discussion?
What do you have it committee?
Well, it's not up to me.
Well, right now, we're just discussing removing it
okay.
from the agenda.
Mr. Gomez, he's the utility chair, and I guess you Streets and Public Works is gonna, one of these is gonna go to your committee, sewer rates, I guess.
Utilities is still in rates.
Yes, so.
Okay, further discussion?
Yeah, I just feel like we need to bring this to the committee because get more understanding what we're talking about and get a feel of what we need to do. We have to make decisions on this.
All right, I'm going to take the other side. The council, in my opinion, is playing on both sides of the fence. this needs to go to committee. We can't discuss it. It's open, it's plain and simple. We have a builder here that would like to execute and get to work and is asking the council to talk to him about it. You want it to go to committee. However, a really much bigger issue is appointing a department head to city manager. You don't want that to go to committee. You want to handle that right here in the public. So the council is asking to have it both ways. We need a committee for one, and we need to execute on the other. So I'm against taking this off the agenda, and I hope the council agrees, so we do things one way or the other.
It was, if I may, Mr. Mayor,
Certainly.
it was discussed in our committee meeting we just had, because employees were told not to come to committee meetings. There's been a disruption in the working policies that we've had. So it was discussed that we could make some changes. That was one of the changes we can make so that our employees could more efficiently work with the city government and move forward based on what's being done now that we do not appreciate and our employees do not appreciate.
Well,
so it was discussed in committee, sir.
Well, I'm glad you discussed it in committee, but you know, the public would like to have a chance to come forward if you want to take a department head and make them the city manager. You discuss it in committee, it should go on the agenda appropriately, be advertised appropriately, and be on the next agenda. And yeah, you're rushing it at this point. And then whereas the discussion, the sewer fees and tap fees, that's on the agenda. You've had all weekend to look at your files and look at this. And
let me say
Mr.
this,
Mayor, we only got our agenda Friday.
well, that's what he
yeah,
said. We got
well, all weekend.
I
Well, let
mean,
me tell
that's
you.
not enough time to discuss this, especially when you talk about reducing sewer rates. Can we reduce sewer rates?
Well, we can discuss it. We can discuss it. That's what we're gonna bring up and discuss.
And
If we can't discuss sewer rates without going to committee, we shouldn't be adding this department head without going to committee and putting it on the agenda in the appropriate fashion. One way or the other, you're asking for it both ways.
And as far as reducing tap fees, how much are we gonna reduce? We all got an idea on how much these tap fees should be. And it's gonna take some discussion for us to come to a decision on where we're gonna go with this. So I think it all should go back to committee.
Well, you're
Even the
just,
department head manager, internal city manager, I think that should go back to the committee.
I agree. If you wanna do,
All three.
if you wanna do committees, do it all, but don't play favorites here and throw one out here with no notice to the mayor, none whatsoever, and then the other one, when you had notice, take it off the agenda. So,
Let me say this about the agenda. I've been hearing this for years, of being here. First of all, the agenda, as it's been happening here in this last year, has been controlled by the mayor. The mayor only is chair of this meeting. This is a city council meeting, controlled by the council. The mayor chairs it. It is not his agenda. He approves an agenda on Friday, and he thinks that we should do work and look and talk to individuals, employees who he does not want us to talk to, and discuss this subject during a weekend. The ideal of having a committee meeting is to have discussion before this, so that it is discussed not on the weekend, but discussed in committee. Typically, it happens a week before. The issue with management of the city has been discussed with the mayor either by email and/or in other situations regarding the employees' contracts, the management. We've had this discussion about freezing pay, and the reason we did it has all been in front of the city. And we now feel an emergency to have this meeting to allow a department head to take over the city manager's position. To me, this is an emergency. If you speak to some of the employees that we have, it is an emergency. So, you're right, it should go in committee, even though it was discussed in committee, but because of the emergency of the situation, that the mayor decided not to have employees come to the meeting because he said he would not pay them to come to a city charter meeting, is certainly not proper.
thank you, Mr. Cooks, and I guess we're gonna have this discussion. I emailed you and asked you to move your meeting to 4 o'clock. You have a habit of creating an audience for yourself with employees after 5 o'clock. I asked you to move it to 4 o'clock and told you I'd have everybody there. As is, you had the engineer at $125 an hour, you spent $200 there. We had the recreation supervisor there for you, and you didn't have the utility people because you couldn't move it to 4 o'clock. Ladies and gentlemen, when you run for office, you've got an obligation to perform. And saying that city business, especially when you're running for mayor, shouldn't be done until after 5 o'clock is inappropriate. I'm just controlling costs. I gave you notice ahead of time. I needed you to have your meeting at 4 o'clock. So it was no surprise when you didn't have the 2 utility people here. And you should not be calling these people after hours and telling them to come as volunteers to this meeting. This is orchestrated on short notice. The citizens should have this on the agenda ahead of time. If you're going to undermine the mayor and appoint a department head to run this entire city, the citizens should know about it ahead of time. It should be on the agenda. That's a responsibility of the council.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. All right, motion and a second to take the reduced sewer rates and reduced water meter fees off the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. The council has spoken. All right. We are down to unfinished, well, no, we've got overtime here. What was the motion on the agenda for overtime? Gentlemen, who made the motion to put overtime on the agenda?
You made the motion. The motion is for overtime, is to have a discussion on the overtime policy that we made, freeze on overtime.
I have no problem adding that under unfinished business. That's not an issue that should be upsetting to the citizens who weren't informed ahead of time. Okay, so we've taken the sewer fees and the water fees. I notice our builder has left off the agenda. We've added overtime to unfinished business, and the council has added discussing making a department head interim city manager. All in favor of the agenda as amended?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, passes unanimously. Street ceiling bid.
No, you got a public hearing.
Oops.
Well,
I'm
first of all,
apologies.
you got minutes to approve, and then you got a public hearing.
Okay, I'm sorry. We have 4 minutes to approve. September 22nd, regular meeting. September 22nd, administrative committee meeting. September 29th, police committee meeting. October 6th, public hearing. Concerns about the minutes is published. Motion to accept 4 minutes as published.
So,
Second, all right. All in favor?
Aye.
Public hearing, license to sell spirituous liquor, liquor store, Mr. Gerald Javits. Mr. You want to take that?
Go up there.
Is that,
Just ask if he has anything to say in favor of it.
you have, I'm expecting you're in favor of this, application being approved by the council?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Javits.
Yes, sir.
Is there anyone that would like to speak opposed? All right, do we just,
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
could I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Public hearing's closed. All right, street ceiling bid.
You should have in your packet a copy of the request for bids that was prepared in accordance with the meeting from, I guess, a month ago now, where it was requested that we prepare a bid for crack sealing of streets. This project did include some additional roads that was in addition to what we discussed at the meeting, and those roads were those that were recently paved. And when I say recently paved, I say within the last 10 years under LARP resurfacing program. The bid includes 10.43 lane miles of road. And that's typically how this would be bid. And it involves strictly just crack sealing, both linear cracks and transverse cracks on the road. The estimated cost for this is in the range of $60,000. The one issue that came up in preparing the bid document was whether or not a bid bond and performance and payment bonds would be required. The city policy, or not policy, the ordinance, purchasing ordinance for the city requires anything above a certain dollar value to require bid bonds and performance and payment bonds to perform the work. With this type of work, my concern on that is this type of work is typically done by smaller contractors, typically subcontractors. My concern is that the city may not get a large pool of bidders on the project because of the bond requirements. However, it is an ordinance and a requirement of the city.
Mark, could you give us an opinion if we would not have bonds be on the qualification? I mean, I would not recommend that. It's protection for the city that the contractor that you select, first of all, once somebody's selected, is going to perform the contract, and also then there's a bond to make sure that they accept the contract once it's been given to them. So it's protection for the city. I understand Mr. Jones's concern there, but I think it's certainly, you know, those people that aren't able to get the bonds, there's a reason for that. It's because they don't have the financial backing to convince the insurance company to put the bond in place. And so I think there's a greater risk there that somebody that doesn't have the financial wherewithal to get the bond, you run an even greater risk that they may not be able to finish performing the work, and then you would be left with problems that the city would have to resolve itself. So while I understand his concern that it may limit the pool of bidders, I think in overall protecting the city's best interest, you need these bonds in place so that if there is a problem with the contractor performing the work that they've said they'll do, that you've got a bond to fall back on to have that work completed. How do we pay them? Do we pay them once they're finished? Or do we pay them, how do we pay, how is that
Well,
paid?
the way this bid is set up, and the way most of them are set up, is they would be paid monthly based on a percentage of work completed, or whatever the quantity of work completed. I would imagine that this work would be done in 1 month, so it's likely that it would just be one payment application.
Who's inspecting the product? And how do we get?
Well, I would be inspecting this, and I would hope that daily inspections would be performed by the Public Works staff. But before final payment is made, I would do a substantial completion inspection with the contractor to verify that the work is completed.
So you could be able to do an in-progress?
I could, yeah, certainly, but I think your staff would, do just as good as me.
Is there somebody on staff that has the experience to know that this work is being performed properly?
I would think Ron Owen certainly would have the adequate experience to be able to, inspect this work. It's not highly technical work. It doesn't require a whole lot of training to be able to inspect it.
And your estimate cost?
$60,000 for the project scope that's identified here.
Let me ask you something, Brandon. Would it be better for us, really, just the ceiling, it's just a temporary fix? I mean, we're looking at some roads that are gonna have to have some money put into them.
Yeah, I think
that's where, I kinda don't wanna waste the money up front and then have to go back and then
your question
rework the road in another year.
is the service life.
Right.
Does it extend the service life of the road? The answer to that is yes, it does. What length of time does it extend the life is hard to say. And it really varies from road to road.
Well, more traffic, yeah, I understand that, but
Right.
what I'm saying is for $60,000, I mean, what we're putting into some of these roads that you have on the map and everything like that, would it be better for us to actually go in and look at a long-term solution?
Well, I mean, if it were left to me to prioritize, how you go about it, I would maybe attack different projects than this as a higher priority. But this will extend the life of those roads that have been paved in the near term or in the last 10 years, it will help to extend those lives. So, I'm neutral in terms of, how you go about this. This is one element of many that needs to take place in the city's maintenance of long-term maintenance of
I've
roads.
been in the asphalt business I did it for 24 years. This is part of the policy of maintaining the roads.
Sure.
This is what happens. You pave them, you seal them, you repave them. You don't wait until, like some of the cases you're talking about, where the roads are just have to be what do you call it?
Well, I mean, you can do a full
Reclamation
depth
thing.
reclamation or just reconstructive
Right.
in general. So
This
this is just one element.
This is an element, it's an ongoing, happens in every city, every county you go to. Coweta County does it. Every city in Atlanta does it. And anyone that I've been involved in my experience in this business, this is what you do. It's part of the process. It's not something that's, it's just throwing money at it. It's just part of the process of maintaining it.
And I think the discussion at the meeting, the council meeting that I was at was, let's get the bids, see what they come in at, and then maybe discuss with the county, can you do this work, at a more competitive cost. So that may be ultimately where this goes. And, at least you'll have, a competitive arrangement that meets your city ordinance to obtain the bids. And I think that's really the goal.
Yeah, and the thing about this sealing deal, the expense of repaving a road like the reclamation we did, you're talking about, I don't know, I think we got like $300-some thousand in splash funds for streets. One street could take that up in reclamation. I mean, so you got one street and you still have problems with the other streets that are not getting maintained. If you want, we have an obligation to spend our money in splash. And we have several funds that I think, not just recently, but we have funds left over from other splash. We have an obligation. $60,000 is a great investment as a maintenance and ongoing maintenance. This is what is done. This is a normal policy and procedure in maintaining those streets, asphalt streets. I would recommend we do it. But I would also now recommend that we go ahead with the bid, and I'd like to make a motion to go ahead with the bid.
I have a motion to put out a RFP for the crack sealing contract as described in the pamphlet and talked about by the city engineer. Do I have a second? Second. All in favor? Unanimous?
Okay, I'll get this advertised. It's going to be advertised using the state's. The state has a website. We'll also advertise in the local newspaper, and I'll make contact with the contractors that I've been in touch with about it. I would expect that it will advertise probably before the end of the week. That means 28 days or roughly a month from that time the bids will be received. So expect me back at the first meeting, I guess, in November to give you the results.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Next is the vote to adopt the amended fiscal year 2014-2015 budget. We've had our public hearings and discussions. Can I have a motion to adopt the amended fiscal year 2014-2015 year budget?
I'll make a motion to adopt the 2014-2015 amended budget.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Discussion?
Yes, I have concerns about this budget, and I'm probably not going to vote for it. I think there's some numbers there that I've had some issues with, particularly in our police department projections, based on the kinds of things our department is doing now, involving community policing. I think that the numbers, I still haven't been satisfied with the numbers I've seen from last year. I can only assume they're correct, and it's just my ignorance, but at this point I'm not satisfied with it. So I will not be voting for approval of this budget.
Further discussion? Okay, we have a motion and a second to adopt the amended. What? Oh,
Here, before we go any further here,
go ahead, sir.
I have some concerns, like Mr. Cook, about this budget because I understand that the projections of the police department were kind of high. And I don't really think that they're going to make those projected this year. So I, like Mr. Cook, got some concerns about that parking, especially as it relates to the police parking. So I'm not gonna be voting in favor of that budget either.
Okay, gentlemen, let me ask you one thing that has nothing to do with, but there was an issue brought up at our work session that the timing of us adopting this has been late. Could you kind of give us a little advice, legal advice on, if you can understand what was presented to us? Are you familiar with that?
Well, that's why it's called amended, because Mr. Jewell was right. Since we did go a meeting late, we adopted the previous budget. And now, by calling this an amended budget, we're adopting this one over the old one.
So you said we adopted in that work session?
Now,
No, it automatically went.
according to the charter,
All right, very good.
we are one meeting late, but we should have done this at the last. We miscounted our days for the public hearings and had to wait till this meeting. Further concerns? I'd just like to say, gentlemen, that's why we have the public hearings and everything. This has been a great time to discuss your concerns. When we had that, and we had the chief here and a lot more time. But I appreciate you voicing those concerns at this time. Further comment? Have a motion and a second to adopt the amended 2014-2015 year budget. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
I'll cast a deciding vote in favor of adopting the amended budget. Next is police vehicle take-home policy. Whose item is that, please? Is that you, Mr. Riley?
Well, we had in the police committee meeting also, that wasn't put on here, was to purchase new vehicles for the take-home cars. And, I had a discussion that I thought we had, we were going to run through, but, it was taken off and just put down as police vehicle take-home.
Well, you know, I apologize, Mr. Riley. You know that, unfortunately, I'm not getting any communication from you other than the council meetings. Let me finish, sir, and then you can have all the time you want. I did hear that you wanted to put this off till after the election, so I sincerely apologize. I did take it off when I heard that, and at the very last minute, after publication, Mr. Gomez called me and said it was supposed to be on there, and I did some more research, and
I also called the front office and also asked Lynn to ask Tanya and question her, but she was too busy working on that new software program.
Yeah,
And I asked her to put it back on, and then I see it wasn't. So, we can put it on for next meeting. And I didn't say anything about before the election or anything else to anybody, so I don't know where we came up with that.
let me apologize.
But,
I'm not against having that on the agenda. I'm overloaded, the staff and everything else. I apologize. We will have that on the agenda, and it is to purchase new police cars for a take-home policy. Would you give, Tracy, the proper wording with that on?
Originally, I believe we had the meeting, and Tanya, and with Tanya sitting here, we were looking into purchasing new vehicles, prolonging it 1 year for the deference on the payments.
Right.
And
Through the GMA.
Through the GMA.
Okay.
And then the proposal was, okay, to be more competitive with the other surrounding Hogansville and everybody else,
Right.
is to have kind of like the same program and the same benefit package that everybody else their officers get to make it competitive. So this is why I wanted it on.
Okay.
And that's where I was going with it.
And it will be, Mr. Riley.
So if you say it'll be
It will.
definitely on for the proposal, then we'll
Okay.
do it.
Well, I appreciate you accepting my apology.
And let me say this.
Go ahead.
As it relates to the agenda, again, we've had this discussion before, and I had it with the city manager. The two city councilmen approve of a subject to be put on the agenda. In principle, it should go on. It should not be determined by anyone else, the city manager, the mayor, that does not go on the agenda. It is my belief, even if I don't agree with some issues, two city councilmen want to put, as if they have the option to call work sessions as well, emergency sessions as well, and need to have the ability to call for agenda items on the agenda. It is my opinion that if two councilmen wants to do that, we should accept that and we should have a discussion. It should not be taken off the agenda by anyone.
And that is the policy, Mr. Cook. You are correct.
So, to say to you, Mr. Riley, that you had an option really to add it to the agenda today.
Well, after it wasn't on Friday, and then trying to put it on today, I felt like we were gonna have this discussion here, and I was gonna bring up the whole issue to clarify it with what happened with me calling Friday, asking it to be put on Friday morning. Mr. Gomez also sent out an email. We all three voted in committee to move this forward to the agenda. So that was a unanimous vote from the police committee meeting. So
It should not have been
wherever it
overturned.
fell through the cracks,
It should not have been overturned.
no. I would like it to be on for next, absolutely.
And it will be. And I want to say something to the council, in my defense. Call me personally. You call the clerks, you're going to city employees, call me personally. If you called me at 1 o'clock and said, hey, I didn't want this removed, I did come down here and had it republished. I'm in town all day. Call me personally. If I've made an error, give me an opportunity to fix it. Don't call the clerks. Call me personally. And Mr. Gomez did. I took his call and I had the discussion with him. Nobody called me back. Had I gotten a call back, Mr. Cooks is right. Two of you want it on the agenda. Whatever it is, we're going to put it on the agenda. But please, start calling me and not the clerks. And I would appreciate that. A text or a call will get to me right away. An email I may not see till that night. But if you call me personally, you can straighten things out the quickest way. Because ultimately, and that's part of what the unhappiness is here, I'm responsible and I'm a decision maker. I'm going to make a decision one way or the other. If you call me personally, I've got no defense. But if you go through the clerk, I may or may not get the word. I may or may not act properly. So
I guess my point was, Mayor, it was already supposed to be on the agenda.
Exactly.
It was never taken off by me. I am the chairman of it. I had never told anybody to take it off. I talked to Mr. Garcia and I said I will take care of it because he had some concerns about it moving forward. And I said I will take care of it, nobody else.
Okay.
Because I am the council member to do that.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right, discussion of overtime. Mr. Cooks.
Are we finished discussion of the take-home card? You said
Right.
that was up there?
He said he was done.
All right, we're going to move it to,
So you
to
want-
vote everything on. I want the cars and the take-home policy
Oh, okay.
all be up for vote for next
Okay.
meeting.
Okay.
That'd be fine.
Overtime. Mr. Cook.
Yes, sir. My issue, my concerns here is that we're using overtime as a tool to manage people individually to the point where they can't do the job. We originally decided to have a freeze on this to look at the possibility of creating salary for our management level people. It was not something that we initiated in initial motion to look at each individual person and determine by the council, by the mayor, to determine whether or not he wanted to work an extra hour, extra 15 minutes. He disrupted the city charter committee meeting by telling two employees not to come because he was concerned about a budget. That on his campaign, he says we were $100,000 under budget. They are performing their duties when they come to a committee meeting. This is not extra side work they're doing. We requested this meeting at 5 o'clock because typically the people who are on your council are working. I know I take off Mondays, so I'm usually available anytime on Mondays, but some of us do not have the privilege to do that. It was no attempt to allow anyone to receive additional overtime for some plot against the mayor. It simply was, we've done this often. We've had meetings at 5 o'clock for committee meetings. This is nothing unusual. It's not a threat to the mayor. I've been getting feelings that the mayor feels like we're going after his position, undermining him. But let me say this. The mayor is a very brave man. He's flown with Delta, he's flown airplanes in bad weather, I'm sure, big airplanes. He's been in the military. He's flown, certainly paying our employees to work in a committee meeting surely can't be a threat. refuse to accept this idea that he's threatened by a council member who wants to have the employee paid. And based on this, we had one employee paid on their own time. And I'd like to make a motion to this council that we pay the employee, Michelle Hofstadter, to give her a pay for her time. And if I get a second, I would appreciate it.
I hear a second for that.
Motion and second to pay Ms. Hofstickler for her time at the council meeting today. Discussion. He just explained his position. Let me take another side. Mr. Cooks, I started working on overtime seriously when the city manager left, and I started looking at what we were spending on payroll. It's not new. Overtime has been killing us. I'm very concerned about overtime. If the employees need to work overtime, they send me a request. And I don't think I've turned a request down yet, but it makes them think about it and ask. And then there are times we have to get overtime. And there's no question with this software problem, we've got overtime going. So I'm not against overtime. I just want to keep it under control. Before, when I started looking at payroll, we had people doubling their pay month after month after month. So the overtime isn't new. Now, when you made your request, Ms. Hufsickler wasn't there on her own time. I had staff send her an email to ask her her time can be adjusted in the recreation area. So I asked her to adjust her time so she could attend your meeting without needing overtime. So that was a request of the employee. So I don't think you need to pay her. I don't want any employee being asked by a council member to come to a council meeting as a volunteer on the off time. I think that's inappropriate. If they're going to be asked to come, they will be paid. So Ms. Hufsickler is not going to be there as a volunteer. If she didn't adjust her time like I requested, she's going to be paid anyway, without question.
My other concern is that I want to make sure this is perfectly clear to everybody. She is a park and rec director, not a rec supervisor, like I've been hearing. So I want to make that perfectly clear. That's what her contract says.
Well,
Don't say.
you might want to read the charter, Mr. Riley.
That's the
Might
only
wanna read
issue.
the
I mean,
charter.
I don't have a problem with calling the director or supervisor, but there's no position in the charter set up for that.
Well, this is what we have. So.
But is that she should not have to adjust her time. She was here, she needs to be paid.
She will be paid.
And
She will be
there should be no adjustments made anywhere else in the schedule.
That's your opinion, Mr. Cook.
That's my motion.
Okay, but then you need to restate your motion.
There should not be any motion. I'll restate, there should not be any adjustments in her, as you have indicated she should do. There should not be any adjustments. She
Okay,
needs
so
to be
you
paid
want
for
her
it.
paid overtime because she was there, paid time and a half, and not adjust her schedule?
Just as we have always been doing, sir. Yes, sir.
Mr. Cook, why don't you make that motion read city employees rather than just Ms. Hufsickler?
Well, no one else attended, because no one else attended.
Well,
all
Mr.
committee
Owens
meetings.
was scheduled to be here today.
Well, let me make a motion that all committee meetings that are attended by employees need to be paid according to their participation. And if we call a committee meeting at 7 o'clock and we need department heads in there, they should come. They should not come to not be under threat because someone has told them our budget is out of whack and you cannot attend a meeting. So I'm making a motion, again, I will amend my motion. The motion is for all committee meetings, employees, because we use prudence in calling these meetings. We're elected officials also, we understand that. All employees can and should and must attend if asked by the chair or by the council or by the mayor to attend those meetings. They must attend and must be paid. That's my motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
The chair has no right whatsoever to order employees to attend meetings. Come through the mayor. All right? That's the way it operates. You want to have a motion to pay them when they're at meetings, but you, sir, need to follow the charter, need to follow the ordinances, and come through the mayor and not through the clerk. And you should not be continuously, as you did last month and requested this month, having all the department heads in here to discuss something. it needs to be managed better than monthly meetings costing us quite a bit of money. But you need to come through the mayor. You will have to change the charter to tell city employees to come to your meetings.
Is that correct, Mark? Opinion?
Well, the issue relating to that, and we've discussed this many times, the mayor, the charter provides that the mayor, I'm reading you directly from the charter, he shall have the authority to control the work of all offices and employees of the city. That's what your charter says. There's also a provision in here that says that the council shall not direct the day-to-day operations. I'm looking for that.
2.08, and therein lies the problem. We're calling employees, we're calling clerks, we're ignoring the mayor, we're ignoring the charter, and it's.
I'm asking Mark.
2.09.
I'd like for you to let the.
2.09 says the council shall act in all matters as a body, and no member shall seek individually to influence the official acts of the mayor or any other officer or employee of the city, or direct or request the appointment of any person to or his removal from any office or position of employment, or to interfere in any way with the performance of the duties by the mayor or other officers or employees.
And that can only be done by what?
It goes on to say each member of the council shall chair a committee and serve on 2 other committees. It shall be the duty of each such committee to oversee the activities of and to establish policies for the operation of one department of the city government, provided, however, that neither the committee nor the chairman thereof shall have any authority to direct the day-to-day activities of the members of such department of city government. Further, neither the committee nor its chairman shall interfere in any way with the mayor's, the city manager's, or the individual department head's authority to direct the activities of the individual employees in each department of city government.
Okay. Now you know why you need another mayor.
Well, I disagree with that. I'm doing my job. He just confirmed I'm doing my job. You don't like the way I'm doing it, you get out there and campaign harder, but I'm doing my job.
And certainly that's what I'm doing, but I'm saying to you, our committee had nothing to do with the day-to-day operation. It was all policy and strategy and strategic planning. So what was said there was relating to someone going in and instructing them to do their job differently. It's not done. As far as I know, no one on this council is doing that on day-to-day policy. What we did today was talk about strategic planning. And it was strategic planning regarding what's happening with our software was supposed to have been discussed today. We have a major issue going on, and essentially, because of a council person needing to be available at a later date, we cannot have that discussion. So that sets back that particular situation. Yes, you're doing your job, but not very well.
Thank you for expressing your opinion, Mr. Cooks. All right, can we move on? Further discussion. All right, we'll go to new business. License to sell spirituous liquor stores, Jabley's Liquor Store, and Grantville Package Store. Council?
Make a motion. Is that what you need?
Yes. You need a motion, and what I would do is have a motion on each license.
Each license?
Yes, so there are 2 licenses. One is for Jabley's Liquor Store, and the other one's for Grantville Package Store.
Oh,
and so
okay.
I would have a motion for each license.
I make a motion that we approve the application for
Jabley's Liquor Store. Have a motion to approve the application, Jabley's Liquor Store. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Could I have a motion to approve Grantville Package Store?
I'd make a motion to approve Grantville Packaging Store.
Could I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you, Gerald and Mr. Jabley. Thank you very much. Okay, department head, interim city manager. you don't mind, Mr. Cooks, that I'd like to give an explanation. You said this has already been to committee. I have your agenda right here. There's nothing on here about a department head, interim city manager. It's not on your agenda. Now, you want it placed on this agenda. It is my opinion, and council can give way, it is my opinion this is a grave violation of open records and our responsibility to notify the citizens of what we're doing up here at City Hall. That's my opinion. It's not on your agenda for your meeting, and it's not on this agenda. If this belongs in committee and on the agenda for committee, so citizens can be aware, and I can assure you, if that had been on this committee agenda, I'd have been here. So, but it wasn't. So I'm asking you to take it back to committee and bring it back to the agenda so that it can be properly discussed and the citizens can be notified.
This is an emergency. We had a discussion in our council meeting because our meetings was disrupted because the mayor's doing a great job of making sure employees come to committee meetings by telling them not to come. There's been other issues that we've had regarding employees doing their jobs regarding this issue. We saw it, the committee saw it as an emergency to stop the disruption of the government and to move forward with having department head give him more time to be mayor and take care of his personal issues. As he said many times, he's busy. He doesn't want to do this position. So I think it's our responsibility by this city council to appoint a department head to be interim until January, unless there's been a city manager been appointed before that time.
Yeah.
I just want to say that appointing a city manager does not take away the administrative duties that the mayor has under the charter. And what the charter says about a city manager is that should the post of city manager be filled, the city manager shall be appointed by the mayor and council and shall be the chief managerial aide to the mayor. So I just want everybody to understand that appointing a city manager doesn't take away the fact that your charter provides that the mayor shall be the executive head of city government responsible for the efficient and orderly administration of the city's affairs, and it goes through other administrative duties that your charter gives to the mayor regardless of whether or not there's a city manager. I just want to make sure everybody goes into this discussion and decision understanding what your charter provides.
What we have here is politics, okay? Mr. Cooks is running for mayor. We're gonna run off business and embarrass ourselves. We've got 5 months we haven't hired a city manager. And you know I can't. 3 votes of the council hires a city manager. This is politics. This is nothing more than, let's create some chaos. The more chaos we create, the harder it is on the mayor to get reelected. That's all. And the council can support it, or we can move on.
I appreciate your comments, even how incorrect they are. This is nothing political. In fact, when we first had a dismissal of the city manager, my recommendation is that we approve an interim person, a department head, on that day. And in fact, but the mayor seems to think it was my political position to do that. I wasn't planning on running back for office at that time. So he's incorrect. But I can appreciate he feels that, competition, so he probably has that concern.
Please don't discuss my feelings. State your feelings, sir.
Calm down, calm down, it's okay. Listen, so the ideal of proper procedure, because he's been, as you can see, very agitated and overloaded with responsibility that he's mentioned to us many times. As the attorney has said, he still has the ability, but to do the things he's doing now. But I'm asking the council to get an interim person in that place to alleviate him of all these issues that he's having doing both these jobs. He's mentioned it many times, check our minutes, that he's having issues doing this. And I think we have a better order of policy and procedure if we have an interim city manager. And I would like to make it this time, Javier Gomez, chief, to be interim. Garcia, excuse me, Javier Garcia to be our interim city manager. I would recommend that this position, the interim, be there until January or until if we appoint a full-time city manager. That I make a motion that we go ahead and appoint him that person.
Have a motion, do we have a second? Motion died for lack of a
I
second.
second that motion.
Okay, motion and a second to appoint Javier Garcia, Assistant City Manager under interim City Manager. Discussion? Do we have that position? I mean,
Well, certainly, the council can act to appoint someone as an interim city manager. Either this motion or another motion is gonna need to establish what pay you're gonna, have for that. But, I do think the council has the authority to, if it chooses, appoint someone to the city manager position on an interim basis.
And I would recommend that to add $1,000 a month to his pay. I think we have currently have $5,000 to $6,000 a month.
Mr. Lundy, you accept his amendment?
Nah. I can't support that $1,000 a month because this is only temporary. You know, he's giving up his duties as police chief to assume city manager duties, I would think.
No, he's not.
Somebody
No,
else
he's
in
not.
that position running.
But
no, I couldn't.
no department head would give up all their duties to do an interim position.
You said $1,000 a month.
What would you prefer? You prefer
Well,
that?
you know, I just thought about that. This $1,000 a month is only gonna be for October,
Right.
November, and
That's-
December, so I second that motion. So it's only gonna be a couple of thousand. So I second
At
it.
max, if we can go ahead and hire.
I just thought about that, you know, it's only gonna be 2,000.
Motion and a second to appoint Chief Javier Garcia to interim
City manager on an interim basis.
city manager on an interim basis. Further discussion?
Qualifications, that's what I'd like to know, how's he gonna be able to handle, manage. He's never been a city manager, running the police department. Is he gonna have enough support? I don't know how his feelings are, but he feels he can do it for the next 2 months.
Well, I'm gonna step in here, against this being on here because the citizens weren't notified and say the man is outstanding. There's no question, he's certainly capable of stepping in there.
The reason I selected Mr. Garcia, Chief Garcia, was because he's had 20-something years in the police department, which is usually a full-time staff of at least 12 people. He's actually been chief, and I can't recall how many years you've been chief.
Total.
5 years of managing. He's no other one in our department who has managed as many people with that kind of authority, involving training, running vehicles, and also, if I'm not mistaken, he has a master's degree in business and public administration.
No,
You have a master's degree in
criminal justice.
criminal justice. He has a master's degree in the criminal justice center. Very well educated. He's shown us that he has the ability to manage a department as well as manage some of the issues that we had as project managers. I feel he's very well qualified. And do you have any objection? Would you like to come up and?
Be honest with you, I can be as honest as I can be. For $1,000 a month, I wouldn't take it. I'm sorry, it's just too much. I've already, it's quite the experience that I have so far. And concerning my education, I went to the University of Georgia Professional Management program, which is the same educational level that city managers have. When I originally took that to the Carl Vinson Institute, I actually took that with city managers because we did not have command college back then. So we took that, City of Brazelton sent me to that class, and it's actually a management program for cities, and I completed that. It was over 150 hours of management training, which I completed in 2005. And anybody that would like to see that, I'd be more than happy to show it to them.
So what would you take?
I, be honest with you, whatever the council feels that Mr. Lundy's not going to want to do it for more than $1,000, I'm not going to do it for $1,000 because this place is.
Would you just to help the discussion here, would you consider it at monthly city manager pay that the last city manager received?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, sir.
I would support that, Chief. I would. No, we gotta stop this madness.
Let me amend the appointment of Chief Garcia to the interim to allow him to receive the current pay of the city manager's position to act as the interim position.
I have a motion to appoint Chief Garcia to interim city manager at the monthly pay rate of the former city manager. Do I have a second?
Second.
Further discussion?
Is this only till the end of the year?
Or, and before, if we decide to bring somebody in before that.
Is the motion till December 31 unless the city manager is hired prior to December 31?
Right, so essentially, we would be paying the chief's pay, his pay would be your start.
Right, you're paying city manager pay and you're eliminating chief's pay.
So it's not affecting the budget.
Okay, all right, and then is this gonna drop dead January 1, or what's the timeline on the request?
Until we hire a city manager.
I would suggest that you have some overlap so that
Right.
you get to a point, I mean, if this ends December 31st and then the new council doesn't take office until, and have their first meeting until whatever that second Monday is, and I think there ought to be some overlap to give the new council the opportunity to decide whether they want to keep that in place or, and certainly that could be done at that first meeting, but I think you at least need to get there because December 31st is going to put you in a spot where you're in kind of a no man's land.
You're back to the mayor.
But you're back to the mayor until on the 1st because they'll be sworn in.
But no, why don't we just leave it open? The council can stop it when we hire a city manager, or just it's interim city manager at the.
Certainly, you're the interim city manager until the council takes action.
Yeah. Until the council's ready to do something different, which would be hire a city manager or something other than that.
All right, so amended.
All right. Mr. Lundy, you accept that?
Second, yes.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the table to hire Chief Garcia as interim city manager, still providing his professionalism as a police chief at former city manager's pay. And further discussion. I have one question. Based on this not being on any agenda, are we okay here with our?
Well, it's I'll read this section out of this GMA publication that I've said before. It says, if a particular issue is not included on the posted agenda, it may still be considered by the council if it is deemed necessary to address it. And the courts have not yet defined what is meant by necessary to address. So
yeah, I'm going to deem it necessary.
if the council has deemed that this is something that's necessary to address tonight, then you can do that.
All right. Further discussion? Motion and a second to make Chief Javier Garcia interim city manager at the pay rate of the previous city manager. All in favor? Aye. It's unanimous. Chief, you're not going anywhere when we hire a city manager. You're going back to, okay. All right, very good. And that will take effect immediately?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Okay, citizens comments? Ms. Patty Palmer, please. DDA update.
Hello, this is a happier note. I'm Patty Palmer, I live at 69 Stafford Road, and I'm here on behalf of the DDA. And we would like to welcome our new bright shining pharmacy that's located at the old Zillers building. That's the big yellow one on the corner of Main Street and Moreland Street. And we are just so pleased that they've come to this city. My able assistant previously handed out some flyers to people. If you don't need them, if you could pass them on to your neighbor who might, there's the phone number and address on there. And just a few doors down, we are going to be having Millie's Tea Room. And that's going to be open next month by Linda Dean, and the date right now is to be announced. But it's a beautiful space in there, and she's done a really good job. There's also in Station 22 the GED program that Shelley Smith has. On Church Street, there, down the road a little bit more, we have a church at 30 Main Street that's open on Sunday mornings, and then we have the Grantville Veterans with Leon Dottis at 36 Main Street. The Enhancement Salon, believe it or not, has been there for over 10 years, and she is open, and the hair salon at Lachore Hair Down, that's in the corner of the shopping center next to Bonnie Castle, is celebrating its 4th year here. So we do have businesses with some long-term standing. And I'd like to thank them for making us all a little more presentable. In that same shopping center, next to Bonnie Castle, there's a Pure Worship Deliverance Tabernacle that's run by Reverend Render Godfrey, and he's open Thursday and Sunday for worship. And then down in Rochelleville, excuse me, we have Z is for Zombies. That's at 1 Main Street, Old City Hall building. And she is also doing Walking Dead tours. Movie tourism is a very big boom to our economy here, and we need to promote it as much as we can. Pete's Family Pizzeria on Church Street will be opening again this week. Yes, Pete. And he'll be giving us pizzas and wings and sandwiches again. Reuse Past Architectural Salvage has been in business here since 2002. And it's popular now with the Pinterest crowd. So you can see with tourism, we have a lot of people that come here that are from all over the world, actually, certainly all over the United States. So we're very lucky to have that. And the more we have downtown, the more people will be able to stay there longer and spend more money. So we have a very diverse group, and we're very happy with them. But Grantville is open for business, and we need more. I have a few things that I'd like to ask of you. One is for a large monument sign at the corner of Griffin and 29. As I've said before, the council is the only one that can put out directional signs, and there's no direction to Grantville. We can be as great as we can, but if nobody can find us, we can't succeed very easily. We also need a smaller sign to tell where to turn when you go the other direction at the LaGrange and Main, and 29.
29, in front of Big M.
Right. We would also like to have historic district signs for Grantville. We are an historic district, and we have a historic downtown that's not noted anywhere in any of the signage. And we are on the Heritage Highway, and that we were actually the first thing to get finished. The depot was the first grant to be finished on the Heritage Highway, and we deserve that designation as a city. So we'd like to get our signage in order so that people can find us. And that's all I have now for an update, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Can I add 2 small things?
Sure.
And it is great to hear you go through that list. You don't realize how much is down there.
That's right.
We have the toy store next to
Oh, yes.
Pistachio's
Right.
Pizza.
Yes.
And also Atlanta Movie Tours, we're on their schedule 3 days a week. They bring a busload every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday to Grantville.
We really can't poo-poo tourism because we have historic tourism with our buildings and our houses, and we have heritage tourism like the genealogic library up there and the cemetery, and then we have the movie tourism, and that is absolutely huge. And right now, that's our industry.
And Diamond number 2 comes out this month, right? Downtown. I think so. Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
For the update. Council, we took we have a builder requesting some help on sewer rates and water meter fees. And we've taken that off to go to committee. Could we schedule a committee meeting to discuss this, please?
Yes, I guess we're following the utilities.
Okay, yes,
So I'd like to put a committee meeting for Monday, next week, Monday.
the 20th,
20th, at 4 o'clock.
4 o'clock. Thank you, sir. Who would you like there?
Probably Ron, possibly.
Okay.
Ron would be great. Let's see, anyone else I need to invite to that? Probably, I would like to also see the, possibly even the builder.
Yes, yes, we'll invite him.
Yes.
Great. We'll invite Mr. Raptis.
Mr. Rathers, yes.
And then I have the county fees already. If we could get Sonoy's fees and Hogansville's tap fees, so that we have something to compare.
Sorry to compare with. That's basically.
Okay.
John works until 5, you know, until 10.
Yeah, no, at 4 o'clock meetings, I want anybody council request. Yes, Sonoy, Hogansville, I have the county for you. Yeah, I think that'd be 2 comparisons, it would be reasonable. Okay, we're now down to, city council comments, Mr. Cook.
The only comment I have is directed towards Mark. When you made reference to when we call for the mayor to freeze employee rates, so was that improper action to happen?
Say that again, sir.
When we did a motion to have the mayor freeze all employees overtime, was that improper motion?
I don't think it was improper. I think the motion was that all overtime would either have to be approved by department heads or by the mayor, which meant that most employees, their overtime would be approved by a department head. But in those instances where it's someone who answers to the mayor directly, and there was a department head in between, then that person's overtime would have to be approved by the mayor.
The motion we made was to freeze it.
No, sir. I think if we look back,
We did not, I've approved many hours.
Yeah, as I recall, the motion was not to freeze it. It was that overtime had to be approved by the department head or the mayor.
So you're saying when we made that motion, it was maybe not necessary for the motion, because typically that's what's approved by many, that's what it does anyway.
Can I say something?
Well-
An explanation? I felt I already had the authority to do that, but I wanted the council to be involved and understand what we were up against with overtime as it existed 2 or 3 months ago. So I came to you to involve you.
Yeah, I think it was certainly.
No, well, I'm not asking about how he felt, but I'm asking you the action he took. That's what I'm asking.
The action he took was appropriate and within the bounds of the charter.
That we could say, only approved overtime could be done, and if that was the case anyway, that already existed, I would assume. So it was not something that we needed to do.
Well, obviously, there was a problem that the council needed to address, or it wouldn't have come up to begin with.
So we were allowed to deal with whether a person should get paid or not get paid under certain circumstances by doing that action, correct?
Well, you took action to say that any overtime had to be approved. You took,
So is that interfering in day-to-day operation?
no, that's setting a policy. That's not interfering in day-to-day operations.
So if we set a policy that they need to be paid for all committee meetings, is that not setting a policy?
it certainly, it can be done in a way that it's setting a policy. Here's the thing that I would say about that, and that you need to look at this as a part of a bigger issue, and that is you need to come back with something that was discussed by the council a few weeks ago, and that's this issue of the Fair Labor Standards Act and the fact that you've got a number of people who are department heads who meet the test to be exempt employees who wouldn't be paid overtime anyway. So I think there's a whole discussion that needs to be had there, but those are, as I see it in many instances, those are policy type issues.
Right. And that's why I make the motion as a policy, not interfere with day-to-day operation. I think in your explanation, I think some may have understood that we were actually making motions that had to do with day-to-day operation. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Gomez?
Yes. I want to thank all the citizens for showing up this evening. It's great to see all these beautiful faces smiling. Right? Anyway, but it was great. I do appreciate the businesses that are coming in, and I'd like to see more, maybe some of the business entrepreneurs kind of come to our meetings once in a while, let us know what's going on and how your business is doing. Is it okay, not okay, or how can we help you? Like, we have great ideas and how we can support you better. Anything like that would really help us too as well, because we're here for you. And there's nothing in the world like, especially the United States, this is free enterprise. It's great to know that someone is starting their own business. It's awesome, and I support it 100%. There's nothing in the world like having anyone start their own business and be able to do that and say, hey, I did it. I got the guts to do this, and I'm going forward with it. And all I need is your support. And how can we do that? Get better at that. So kudos to you, running your own business, and I'm glad that Pete's Stasio is starting back up. So what we can do for you, Pete, please tell us how we can support you better. And please, everyone out there, hey, just pass the word to support our local business, okay? Thank you for showing up. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Mr. Gomez. Mr. Riley?
Yes. Well, thank you again for coming. I've been hearing some great comments from people, especially in the morning when I stop and get a paper. They love the lights, and perfect timing for getting dark out. The great response I've been hearing about just something positive, you know, and thank you again, Councilman Gomez, for bringing that to light for us. And everybody have a nice 2 weeks, and we'll see you again.
Thank you, Mr. Riley. Mr. Lundy?
I have nothing to add. Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Mr. Lundy. Hey, again, I'd like to say the lights are fantastic, and I'm very glad that the Stasio's Pizza is back in line to open up. It really is necessary downtown. The Dumb and Dumber 2, the release date is November 14th, so it's not in October, it's November 14th, and I pass it on. We had a great time Saturday for our second annual Law Enforcement Day. We just had a lot of fun out there, and no city funds were expended for that. And we hope next year to really crank it up and turn it into something that maybe when we're not so much going on, maybe we could really make it a bigger community event than it was. We appreciated law enforcement that came by, and we really enjoyed ourselves, I think. I'd like to say Happy Columbus Day. I guess today was Columbus Day, so appreciate everybody coming, appreciate your patience and being part of checking out your community. Thank you very much. Motion to adjourn? So moved. Second? Second. All in favor? Aye.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, wait, you got a life one day.
Oh, man. If they're not being nasty, they're grandstanding, huh? If they're not being nasty to each other, they're grandstanding, right?
Oh, this was the liveliest meeting I've ever attended.
Oh, no. We've had people get up and get physical with each other. It should be up by tomorrow morning. The YouTube channel is Grantville, Georgia, no abbreviation. Oh, and if anybody didn't make it and wants to see it, that's where it'll be.
Mr. Doctor, how are you?
Yeah, a lot of people were saying it was going to take multiple people. Yeah, I'm going to bring my own camp chair from now on.
It looked like you were getting so.
Yeah, I've got degenerative disc disease. This isn't fun.